I want to welcome to the show Republican from Tennessee, Congresswoman Diane Black is with us. Representative, thanks for your time this afternoon.
You're so welcome. It's great to be with you.
Well, it's good talking with you. And I understand that you have introduced legislation that would get rid of questions of ethnicity and race on the ATF forms that gun purchasers fill out when they go to a gun store.
Well, and it doesn't actually get rid of it. What it does is it just makes it voluntary. You can either fill it out or not fill it out. But it makes it so that it cannot be used against our gun owner stores, the dealers, to say that they haven't abided by the law. Because that's what we're seeing is they're saying the ATF is coming in and they're looking at these forms, and people are really confused because it has two lines there. One is ethnicity, which, by the way, is really very racist because it only has two categories, either Hispanic or non-Hispanic. So that's very curious. But then it also has a separate category that asks for your race. And so people will be filling out the form, and they'll figure, well, if they filled out the race, they don't necessarily have to fill out the ethnicity. And so the ATF is now coming into the gun dealers and saying, you haven't abided by law, we're going to pull your license. And it only has to happen on one application. So what we're saying is this information, first of all, should not be necessary in order to purchase a gun. And in that, then if it is really not necessary and it's not a part of the law, then we can just make this something voluntary. If someone wants to fill it out, they can. If they don't want to fill it out, fine. It's not required.
Have you been able to determine, Congresswoman, why this information is being collected, what the purposes are? Because it's not, as you say, that it's necessarily new. The form changed a couple of years ago, so now it's a little bit more confusing for people. But why has this information been collected?
Well, they try to go back and say that the information in some form has been collected since 1968, but we know the current forms in 2012 were changed to include both of these categories. We're also told that they've never stored this information in any kind of database or used it for anything, which brings the question, why, if you don't use it for anything, are you even asking for it to begin with? But they use the excuse that the OMB, the Office of Management and Budget, has actually had, if there was a form of other kinds that more for the purpose of making sure that someone wasn't discriminated against. So, for instance, a form that might be used that you would fill out for rental, that you wouldn't be discriminated against because of your race or your color, that then they could go back and use that information. But in this case, there really is no reason for it, and so they're trying to use the excuse of saying in 2012 they put these on there because of the Office of Management and Budget. But when you ask Management and Budget, they say no, they don't require it either. So it really is not very clear about why they began using this when it wasn't on there previously. But the fact of the matter is, take all that history away, there really is no reason to have this if they don't use it. And it actually discriminates against both the gun owner and also the gun dealer. It's interesting that even the ACLU, which is, of course, not generally a group that you would see that would be terribly concerned about protecting Second Amendment rights, they actually have put a statement out in the Washington Times that says there is nothing that supports the requirement that ATF collect race-based information. The OMB guidance merely describes what category of race should look like if the information is collected, but not if that is necessary. So I think it's very unusual to have the ACLU on the side of those of us who believe in the Second Amendment rights.
Well, they do say politics make strange bedfellows, and I'm happy to have those allies there. Again, maybe this just demonstrates the broad bipartisan concern over stuff like this, particularly when, as you say, the reasons given don't really stand up to scrutiny. So where is your legislation right now, Congresswoman?
Well, currently we filed it in the House, and we did so just before Congress went on its went back to the district. And so we didn't have as much time as I would have liked to, but right now we do have 20 sponsors, and we are building on that. We believe that once we get back into session again, we'll be able to have a number more people. As I explained, the significance of this, sometimes the a sponsor of a bill needs to explain to people what it really is, and so I will be doing that. But I think it's also interesting that my friend Senator Roy Blunt from Missouri has also looked at this issue, and he has penned a letter to the administration asking them for their acknowledgement of this and why it is that they would have started asking for this information. That I know of, he has not received an answer back from them. And the case is that I hope that he will pick up my bill and be the Senate sponsor of that so that we can move this forward and get this definitively taken care of.
Well, listen, Congresswoman, I appreciate you coming on the program this afternoon, and I look forward to having you on as the bill makes progress through the House and Senate.
Yes, and if I could just one little thing, if listeners out there would do me a favor and call their representative and let them know how they feel about this so that we could get more support, that would just be great. It would help me out a great deal to get more sponsors on there and be able to move this bill along.
All right, Congresswoman, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it.
I thank you, and we'll look forward to talking to you again.